Welcome back, Inebri-art. This is Andy back again. And today we're joined by, would you call yourself a visual artist? Or,
Yeah, might as well.
okay. I don't love descriptive type things because as I was saying before, kind of do a little bit of everything. But
Hmm.
Mike Diana is joining us. Welcome to the show. And I have to say, I wasn't familiar. Like, I'm kind of like, how did your work kind of go outside of my radar? Like, you were so
Hmm.
type of person that I would have been interested in. You're like an underground comic artist. I'm gonna call you a fighter for the First Amendment. Yeah, and I was like, when you were going through your legal troubles was when I was in like high school and art school, and I was just like, how did I miss this
Hmm.
entirely? Can you give us just kind of like a little bit of background of what that's about?
I mean, I think part of the thing was that when it happened, it was before the internet was around.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it was hard to get the news out and everything. But I had been doing my zine for a while, and it's called Boiled Angel. And eventually I got busted, and that was crazy. Um, I mean, I was doing a job for the Pinellas County School Board, and my
yeah,
mother got me a job as a custodian. And I had so much downtime that I would spend my time there drawing. Um, and then I would use the copy machine in the copy room, without permission,
sure.
basically
Like all
making,
good zines.
yeah.
Yeah,
And me and my friends had a saying at the time that was, well, of course, I'm not going to work on my zine at home. That's what a day job's for, or that's what a job's for.
yeah.
Yeah. So I was making copies in there, and one of the copies got stuck when I was doing issue number 6. And, I was found out. I had my name signed to it. Um, and that was the first of the problems. And then after that is when the detectives approached me, came to my mother's house where I was living at the time, and said because of Boiled Angel number 6, I was a suspect in the Gainesville student murders. There were these unsolved murders in Gainesville, Florida. And of course, that was upsetting. And, I didn't realize that was just the beginning of my problems.
Yeah.
So it just got worse from there. Um, and, the community I was in, Largo, Florida, which is like a small suburb of St. Petersburg, and all those like small towns, by the time I moved there, my family moved there, which would have been 1978 when I was 8 years old. We moved from New York State to Florida because my mother was from Florida. And all the small towns, grew to the point where it's just like one big town, like one big
Yeah.
strip mall, pawn shops, everything, a big police presence. And Largo was one of the more religious towns. My father didn't know where he was bringing us. We ended up there because my mom's sister lived in Bel Air, which was a nice area on the beach. And Largo was cheap. We got a cheap house.
Hmm.
But a lot of like elderly people, very religious. There's streets called Rosary Road and other
Oh
religious,
man.
and a great police presence. And I was harassed from age 12 onward living there
Yeah.
on my bike, getting pulled over, and then when I got my car, constantly getting pulled over in my car because I had long hair and I fit that they like to profile the people, and then
Sure.
they
Sure.
assumed I had drugs, and I wasn't using drugs, but I was drawing, and I
Yeah.
mean that was weird to them even, you know. Yeah.
I can relate. I grew up in a small town here in Massachusetts, and I was I think I was the only kid in my junior high with long hair, and I remember getting stopped by the cops just walking down the street, and they're like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "Home," and they're like, "Do you want us to give you a ride?" I'm like, "How do you expect me to explain that?" Like,
Right.
I went home and told my parents. My dad's like, "Next time you tell them yes," and I'm like, "No, no, I'm not
Right.
gonna do that."
I didn't want to sit in the back of a police car,
Yeah,
Wow, that's weird.
yeah. So
I
like
mean,
I can totally relate to that kind of, you're just literally minding your own business and
yeah.
yeah.
On Halloween, I mean, there was one Halloween I'm walking down the street and the two cops drive by and they're like, "Hey," and it's a trap, because a
Yeah.
kid something to hide or doing something wrong is going to run or get
Right.
nervous. And I knew the game, and they'd say, "Where are you going?" And before they leave, they'd hand me a little lollipop, you know, for being good. And then at Christmas, they did it. They hand me a tiny little candy cane, like those
Yeah.
long ones.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
So they're not just harassing you, they're giving you a candy cane. They're good
Right.
officers. I'm like, nah.
Yeah. And that's not to say that like I didn't get up to trouble. I
I
did.
mean, yeah,
But it's just like one of those, they never seem to be around when we were causing trouble, you know? So, um,
exactly.
yeah. So the surprising thing about that book, and so, I mean, to get back to your book is, you were arrested for the content of it. And that, I'm like, didn't Larry Flint take care of that for all of us? Like, how did that happen? Like I read the Wikipedia article twice because I'm like, it
Yeah.
just didn't make. There has to be more to this. Like I don't get it.
Well, and I mean, Florida's a weird place, and like I was right near Tampa, I drive to
Mhm.
Tampa to see bands and stuff, and there's the strip clubs, Mons Venus, and across from Mons Venus is 2001 Space Odyssey, it's called. And this was like in the movie Porky's, like the high school kids would get fake IDs so they could go to the strip clubs.
Sure, yeah,
Um, and it was some weird law about the zoning, which allows these strip clubs to be there in Tampa. There was another one called the Tanga Lounge, been around since like the 60s. And, they just come after you for like little things. So that was weird. Yeah. I mean, it was crazy. You just feel like the oppression and
yeah.
the religiousness, of the area. And I knew that it was like that. So I kept it a secret, what I was doing.
Hmm.
Um, I used to drive by it was a warehouse converted into a porno theater
Yeah.
in Seminole, Florida, and that's where Pee Wee Herman got busted.
Oh, really? Oh, that's funny.
He
I
was
remember that.
sitting in there watching a movie, and he decided to unzip his pants, because he figured,
Yeah.
like, that you can do that here. And there were four undercover officers watching the film, saw him do it, and arrested him. They should have been out solving crimes, but the
Yeah.
porno theater, like four of them. I mean, there's all that kind of stuff, and I mean, when the authorities had bought the book, like I said, I didn't let people in my community know I was doing this, not because I thought it was illegal, but I just knew they weren't the type that were into it.
Yeah.
I had like sent a copy to Miami, someone bought one, but all the people buying them was outside of the state of Florida. And, the police, detectives, they took my blood sample, when they approached me. And what I didn't realize that one of those two undercover officers had kept tabs on me. He ordered number 7 and 8 of Boiled Angel through the mail.
Yeah.
He got my post office box out of issue number 6 and said his name was Mike Flory. And he'd just moved to Largo from Fort Lauderdale, and he heard about my books out in Fort Lauderdale. And I thought, well, that's strange. How could he hear about it? And I was thinking, well, it's interesting. The first person in Largo that's ever wrote to me about this, and I wrote him back and said, how about we meet in person? Because I was kind of interested,
Yeah.
save the post money. And he had some excuse, about working. And it was at a post office box in Largo. I had a post office box in Largo also at the post office. I used to use my mom's address, but she got mad because I was getting letters from prisoners.
Yeah.
In the old zine days, it was a thing for especially maybe the obscure zines like mine that would give them to prisoners for free. It's like something to help them out.
Yeah.
So I had prisoners writing to me. So I got my post office box. Well, this guy, Mike Flory, sent me a total of 10 letters. Just I hadn't had a chance to send him the stuff. And he sent me a letter saying, "Oh, come on, send them to me. I'm not a cop or anything." And I finally sent the books, but I didn't realize that the post office box I was sending it to was in the same post office as mine.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And later on, you know how I made the connection. One of the last days, I went to my post office box before closing it out when I left Florida, moved to New York City. I saw a uniformed police officer checking a post office box that was right across from mine.
Oh,
And I realized that's the box.
that's crazy.
It was a New York, I mean, it was a Largo Police Department post office box. So I
Yeah.
could have staked it out back then, before I sent the books. But I mean, I didn't feel like I was doing anything illegal or wrong, when I sent.
Right.
I mean, I didn't want to just send them right to the police, but I always figured, my father would say, "Oh, you're going to get arrested someday for pornography," and I'd say, "No, there's no way possible. I got freedom of speech and whatever."
Yeah.
Um, and I knew the people in the community really hated Hustler magazine. I mean, that's the kind of thing they're against, but they have no power to fight that. That's big business.
Yeah.
That's 7-Elevens and the convenience stores that makes money, so you can't really fight it. But
Hmm.
someone like me, you know, um, so a whole 2 years went by, and I didn't realize this guy was a fake. I just wondered why I never heard from him again. He ordered the Boiled Angels 7 and 8. He ordered the videos, Baked Baby Jesus and Blood Brothers. I had VHS videos I made, and I sent those to them. So 2 years went by. I didn't think about it. And I didn't realize that 2 years, the state attorney's office was compiling their case against me. Um, and then one day I got a letter in the mail. I had already stopped Boiled Angel with number 8 because I just wanted to concentrate more on my own comics.
Yeah.
And the Boiled Angel issues were getting thicker and thicker with like submissions from different people, which was fun, but I kind of was getting tired of like doing all this printing. I didn't have my own copy machine, so I would use the one at Staples.
Yeah.
And, it was honor system where you just write on a piece of paper how many copies you made. So, of course, I abused the honor system,
Of course. Yeah. I mean, I always called Staples roulette because it's like no matter when you walk in, it's like, oh well, I have to lift the lid this time. It's going to be an extra
Right.
$1.50, and I'm like, but the last guy, and
Right.
you're like, whatever, just
Yeah.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah. It was crazy. I mean, so yeah, I got a letter in the mail and it said I was facing, you know, not didn't have anything about what I was facing it, but 3 counts of obscenity, and I had to go to court to plead guilty or not guilty. And whenever they do this stuff, it's like right around your birthday. I mean, it must be on purpose.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. And so I showed my father, the letter. I said, "Oh, got in trouble." He's like, "Oh God." He didn't think much of it, I guess. He said, "Oh,
Yeah.
I'd get in trouble," something like that. And the morning I was supposed to go to court, I'm leaving the house, getting in my car, driving out of the parking lot. And my father was at the luncheonette that was near the same parking lot we had next to our house. And he comes out of the luncheonette with the morning's newspaper in his hand. And he's pointing to it, holding it up in the air. And he's screaming, "You're in the fucking newspaper," on the
Oh
front
my
page.
God.
And then he also screams, "You're facing 3 years in prison." And that was the first I heard anything about,
That's
so this is
crazy.
a very
Yeah.
stressful thing. I'm like, "Oh, I'm in the paper." And went to court. There was a mob of television reporters, newspaper reporters, and 2 groups of protesters against me, holding the picket signs and everything. And I was just thinking, oh my God, this is just crazy.
That's
Um,
bonkers. Yeah.
Went into court, pled not guilty, left, through crowds of protesters screaming at me.
I'm assuming at this point you didn't have a lawyer. You were just,
Yeah, this was just the
yeah,
first time. Went and bought, the newspapers so I could
yeah,
have copies.
sure.
Um, Went home and watched the news. I was on the TV news. Some of them I'm recorded. I didn't get to record all of them because I was in court or whatever. Um, but yeah, I mean, of course, it was a very stressful thing. And, my parents seeing me on the news, hearing it from their friends or whatever that, oh, I saw your son on the news. And one of the other disturbing things was about the news was that, I mentioned that I was a suspect in the Gainesville student murders.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, did they mention that?
So they would
Because
start the report out saying,
yeah,
a one-time suspect in the Gainesville student murders now doing this obscene zine.
yeah.
And I mean, this artwork that I drew is so illegal and obscene, but they show it on the news, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah. Like that stuff is
going into a
it's
baby and
crazy.
like
Yeah.
flipping through it. But I'm like, all right, I just saw something. Part of the law was that the public has the right to see the material being charged. So at the courthouse, they had copies of Boiled Angel. Children, anyone that requests to see it, news cameras, whoever wants to see this material for themselves is allowed to go in there and ask and see it. So aren't they spreading this
But that
stuff?
way it's perfectly legal, but you sending it to people requesting it wasn't okay.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
bonkers.
I mean, yeah, it was really crazy. And of course, I pled not guilty. I got home after that day, just sick stomach feeling. Stopped at Wendy's because I was hungry to eat something. Sat there staring at the Dave's Double or whatever,
Yeah.
and eat because I was stressed out. Um, and I called my friend Scott Cunningham in New York City, who was also one of the contributors to the Boiled Angel issues.
Yeah.
And I told him what happened. And he said, "We'll call the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund." I never heard of them.
Oh, I remember them. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it was founded by Dennis Kitchen,
Yeah.
Kitchen Sink Press.
Sure.
So I realized a connection. So when I was 14, I was really into Heavy Metal Illustrated magazine. And I knew about underground comics. I'd heard
Yeah.
about them. I'd seen like them written up in encyclopedias about comics in general and stuff, but I never actually owned any undergrounds or got to read them completely. And I noticed a classified ad, a small ad in Heavy Metal Illustrated that said, underground comics grab bag. We'll send us $6. We'll send you this package. Had a little coupon to cut out. You had to sign your name that you're 18 or over. I was 14.
Yeah.
Signed that I was 18, send it in. On the stack that I got, first comic was an issue of Bizarre Sex, the one that Dennis Kitchen did the cover, and it has a big dick breaking out of the sidewalk,
Yeah.
New York City street. And other comics under it, I mean, were just like impressed by them. I was like, oh my God, I finally found these things, this is like stuff that was made for me.
Yeah.
And I started ordering like lots of comics from Kitchen Sink Press. They had Death Rattle, some of the new titles they were doing, but also lots of old comics, cocaine comics, Zap, Anarchy. I mean, there was so many, and this was like old stock, so the
Yeah.
actual old ones printed that were just still around. But then later, when I found out he was the Comic Defense Fund, also, I thought that it was funny that he kind of got me into the undergrounds in a way, and like I felt like he had some responsibility.
You got me into this mess.
Artwork.
Yeah. Yeah.
But after I saw the undergrounds, I mean, I was into the EC horror comics a lot.
Sure.
Undergrounds was the next step, and when I did Boiled Angel, I was thinking, well, if the undergrounds were that explicit in the 70s, this is the 80s and 90s. So
Yeah.
I got to bring it up a notch,
Mhm.
like, or a bunch of notches. And that's kind of what I was trying to do. So I was like, well, Dennis, now you can help me get me out of this trouble you got me in. But I met him a couple times and he was a real good guy. We were talking about that cover he did with the big dick. And he said he always wanted to have that cover printed on a t-shirt. So,
Yeah.
tuck it in and it looks like you have a big
Oh,
dick.
big dick. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah, this whole story is just it's it's fascinating because it's just like I feel like I mean that it seems like it should never happen, but like you can tell me it's going to
Yeah.
happen tomorrow and I would believe you. It's like as much as things change, things are still staying the same, and it's
Yeah. It's,
I was a big metalhead, so I remember they were always trying to like censor, um, you know, at the time it was like Wasp and all these other bands, and
oh, yeah.
it's just it's so crazy to see people fight against one of those founding principles that they'll then
Yeah.
turn around and try to use in their case.
Yeah.
It's
Definitely.
baffling.
I was always forced to go to church. And in Florida, it was much more fanatic kind of
Yeah.
feeling. And going to a Sunday class, after church on Sunday, we'd go, me and my sister and my brother would go to this Sunday class, Bible class. One day they had a young couple there that brought a whole record collection in to play them backward for us, backward masking, like
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
pointing out the
Yeah.
messages. And it was like Ozzy, of course, Judas Priest and the standards, but then it was like the song Another One Bites the Dust, they play it backwards and it says smoke marijuana,
Oh
something like
really? Oh,
that,
that's great.
Beatles. I
Yeah.
mean, Prince was another one. Rick Springfield was one of my sister's favorites. And
Rick Springfield, really?
after she heard he was a Satan worshiper, she wrote him a letter. My father told her, she should do this. Write him a letter. Tell him how disappointed you are that he's a Satan worshiper. And she did it. I mean, it went
Yeah.
in a file somewhere, the letter, I guess. Um, but I was writing down all the titles of the records so I could go check them out.
Yeah.
Like,
Of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like I remember like you had in junior high, you had all the dare kids, and by the time you get to high school, they're like the biggest junkies, and you're like, well, you spent
yeah,
days and days telling them what the drugs do.
yeah, I'm interested. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, well, really?
yeah. It solves
Yeah,
all my problems, really. But yeah,
yeah,
it's so crazy, and it like that. Like I'm a, a devout, I guess, atheist, but like
hmm.
just some people's reactions to and you're like, this is like, I almost want to wish I could like record it and play it back to them and be like, do you see how weird this looks? Like we partnered with
Yeah.
a hot sauce company to make an exclusive hot sauce,
Hmm.
and they're based out of Salem, and it's hot sauce, so it's satanic hot sauce.
Oh, right.
And so like this guy's like going through and he like comes upon our table or whatever, and I'm like, oh blah blah, and he's like, oh, satanic should be Jesus hot sauce. Oh,
Oh
and I'm
God.
like, well, what does Jesus have to do with heat? That makes no sense. Like, I don't think you understand. He's like, no, I do. And I'm like, I don't think you do, brother.
Jesus.
And
All
like,
right.
I'm like, it's just such a silly reaction that just
Yeah.
like,
Well, you
yeah.
should do it anyway, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it's just like, okay, whatever, man. Like, not for you. Move along.
Yeah, deviled ham. I mean, that's Satan ham,
Oh, I didn't even think of deviled ham.
In Florida, they have a hockey team. I think it's hockey. It's called the Devil Rays.
Yeah.
And they were against the Devil Rays because of the word devil.
It's
It's a fish.
so silly. Yeah.
I mean, they're not against the devil ray, I guess, in the ocean, change that. But
Yeah. It reminds me like post 9/11 when they're like, oh, they're freedom fries because France won't sign off on our attack or whatever. And you're like, it's still the same fucking thing. Like,
yeah,
you're
it's not good
being
for you. Fried.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's strange. I mean, it's people that like stressing about the little things that don't matter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
bonkers.
craziness.
So how has all of that affected your art today? Like, what are you doing today? I mean, in the
Um,
Wikipedia article I read, it said something that you were looking at possibly putting together like a box set of Boiled Angel. I wasn't sure if that had happened or like, are you doing gallery
um,
shows? Like, where are you at?
well, I mean, I always had thought about, my artwork, trying to keep it extreme, not letting the whole legal thing that happened discourage me from doing the kind of art I was doing.
Yeah,
And one of my conditions of the probation was that I was not allowed to draw for the 3 years of probation.
that's
Um,
crazy.
and I never actually stopped drawing.
Yeah,
I always was drawing in black and white because it was for black and white copies, but I always wanted to get into color.
yeah.
So I started doing color paintings, and I'd keep the canvases hidden in the trunk of my car.
But painting isn't drawing.
Yeah. I mean, really, it was no
Yeah,
artwork created, even for my own personal use, kind
that's
of.
God. That's
And I wasn't even supposed to have art supplies.
yeah,
But I was doing paintings like that had to do like similar to Boiled Angel, but nice color, this big dick creatures like raping a woman in half and
yeah.
whatever. Um, and I feel like I kept doing the same kind of art after that. And, I left New York. I left Florida. My case was on appeal because I was on probation for a while, and
Hmm.
we got my probation put on hold until the outcome of the appeal. And I didn't have a good feeling about the appeal. And I made a decision I was going to leave Florida and move to New York City by my birthday, which was on June 5th in 1996. And and I did it. I packed up a moving truck, and left and arrived in New York. I think it was right on my birthday. Um, and that day I got a call from my father. Remember I said on the birthdays, like they like to
Yeah,
get
yeah.
my father called on my birthday. I figured, oh, he's calling to wish me happy birthday. And he says, the police are here looking for you. And the news cameras. My father had a pizza shop that I was working at before I
Yeah.
left. And they were going to, they were asking him questions. And whenever they asked my father questions on the news cameras, he didn't want to be on camera. So he would start making advertisements for his pizza. Come on down to my pizza, or pepperoni Pete's.
Fantastic.
And he said they knew they wouldn't run that.
Yeah.
Was not going to give him free advertising.
Yeah.
Um, but the police were looking for me to rearrest me because my appeal was upheld, the conviction was upheld, and they denied any further appeal because they were tired of hearing about the case. Luckily, I was in New York, and there was no extradition, so they couldn't bring me back
Yeah.
forcefully because it was misdemeanor charges. And so the probation office in Florida contacted the New York City probation office and asked them if they wanted to take me on. And the New York probation office said, no, we don't do that. I assume they have better things to do in New York
Yeah.
City. So Florida said, oh, you know what? We're going to help you out. We're going to let you do probation by the mail. I said, all right. So at that time, I was working for a New York Press, which was a free paper in New York City,
Hmm.
doing illustrations for their stories. Like every time they had like a story article about deicide once, and they let me do that one. The ones that they thought that I could do a good job.
Yeah.
Uh, the more explicit kind of stuff. So I'd be sitting there drawing one of these assignments, to get paid for, and the probation officer calls me from Florida. You're not drawing right. You're not supposed to be drawing. Like, nope, not drawing. And I got behind in my fine, and
Yeah.
he ended up quitting the probation office in Florida and violated my probation on the way out. which was 1998. Um, and then for the longest time, I was wanted in Florida. And I had snuck in and out of there a few times. Luckily, I didn't get caught. Had a couple close calls where I almost got busted, you know, um, once at the airport. And even when I would go to other countries, I went to Holland and Europe and even Bolivia. I had a show there once. And coming back through JFK in New York City, they scanned the passport with a barcode that's in the passport, and it comes up on the computer, wanted in Florida. And they'd send me downstairs to the Homeland Security office where there's all the cops on computers.
Yeah.
And when I first happened, they'd say, "Oh, we got to call Florida and see if they're going to want to come and get you." And I knew that wasn't going to happen.
Right.
But several times, I had problems through JFK and LaGuardia.
Is that
And
still outstanding? Has that like been resolved or?
well, what happened is that director Frank Henenlotter, who I became friends with, who did Basket Case, movie
Yeah.
Basket, Frankenhooker, and other movies. I was telling him about my case, and he said, "Well, we should do a documentary on it." So he did one. We did a documentary. We went to Florida, interviewed my mom, my father, interviewed my lawyer. They interviewed the prosecutor, Bagish, which they tracked down to who was in his private practice in Austin, Texas. Um, got a lot of good interviews. Scott Cunningham, I mentioned earlier, we interviewed him. Um, and so they did a Kickstarter to raise funds to make the documentary. And they said, "Well, we're going to raise money also to pay off the rest of your fine." I owed 1,200 that I hadn't paid for the $3,000 fine. And I owed money to the lawyer,
Yeah.
1,000, that was to take care of this finally. Um, and yeah, the lawyer went in, and it was the first time, my lawyer said, the first time in Florida history that they let someone go with the violation of probation charge like I had without them having to go to Florida. In other words, I stayed in New York.
Yeah.
Didn't have to go to Florida in front of the judge myself. My lawyer just was there in my place or whatever. Um, and yeah, they gave me the phone call and said, "Okay, well, but it was a lot to do to get to that point. So the original judge, all the things the original judge said that I had to do to get out of it.
Yeah.
When the judge says something, even if it's many years ago, that means something. Um, like the journalism ethics class, one of my excuses for doing all the interviews with serial killers was that I said that I considered myself a journalist. Um, and during the sentencing, the judge said, "Well, if you consider yourself a journalist, you're going to have to take a journalism ethics class and pass so you can become a serious journalist." See, like, so I took that at NYU,
Yeah.
and I had to go and, dig up that proof that I took the class. Community service work, I had started that in Florida when I was on probation at a thrift store. And
Man, they threw the book at you. That's
yeah,
crazy.
I mean, I had over 8,000 hours of community service work to do, some
8,000?
something like that. It was crazy. I mean, 3 years worth, 8 hours a week.
Yeah.
Um, and I did a lot of my hours at a place called God's Love We Deliver, which delivers food to people with HIV in New York City. And I mean, I like doing that anyway to help people out.
Sure.
So I went around and was collecting all my proof of hours that I did. I realized that I had done too many hours. Got carried away.
Yeah.
I had done a lot of hours for the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund because they're a nonprofit.
Sure.
But then after I did those hours, the probation office in Florida informed me that it's a conflict of interest, so we can't accept those hours.
Jeez.
Comic Defense Fund helped me out.
Yeah.
Um, Neil Gaiman I met at one of the conventions in Charlotte, North Carolina, on behalf of the Defense Fund. I spoke to the crowd at the convention center, and Neil Gaiman was doing charity work to raise money for them, and I met him. And Neil Gaiman also is in the documentary.
Yeah.
We had it on Amazon Prime for a while, but then they took it off because they're trying to sell it to Blu-ray. So right now it's like in limbo.
Okay.
Not really a way you can see it yet, but hopefully soon they're going to
Oh,
get it
cool.
on Blu-ray. And I'd like to have them streaming it somehow again. That would
Yeah.
be, um,
It's
yeah,
it's such a crazy. That's like every part of this just sounds absolutely absurd.
yeah,
And I mean, here I guess here's the $64,000 question: is like it had to be stressful. It disrupted a lot of your life, but
yeah,
it did lead you to where you are. Like looking back, would you want that to have been different? Because I mean, you pretty much stuck to your guns and did what you did.
yeah.
Now, I mean, would you? How do you think your life would be different if that didn't happen?
I mean, I've thought about it a lot. I think people think about that with their lives anyway. Like if you took this or that path, things that would have
Yeah.
been different. Big thing for me is that living in New York State and moving to Florida. When I first moved to Florida, I was with my cousins. We were going to the beach every day. I mean, I was into the snow in New York. Playing in the snow and stuff,
Yep.
and it was fun. Um, Geneva, New York, is like right in the snow belt, so it was like really like waist high snow when I was a kid.
Okay.
Um, Florida was fun being on the beach, but I always missed New York. And I had that feeling. I was in the middle of the fourth grade, being torn out of your life, and your friends and everything, and brought to Florida, which I realized was like a hellhole.
Yeah.
At a young age. I always just wished that I never left New York and moved to Florida. That was the
Yeah.
main thing. Um, and I had this friend in Florida that also was the same kind of situation where he was brought to Florida from New York State. We became friends just based. On how much we hated Florida.
Hmm.
And so, I mean, if I never moved to Florida, then it probably never would have happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wondered what kind of art would I be doing, but I was into ugly stickers, like these things called ugly stickers, which was the gross monsters,
Hmm.
wacky packs, like all
Yeah.
the weird
That's exactly what I was just
art.
thinking of. Yeah. Yeah.
I was into all that stuff at a young age.
Garbage Pail Kids.
Garbage Pail Kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was later on when I was like an adult already. But like my influences as a kid were definitely along the same lines, I think, that I would have been doing a similar kind of art. Um, who knows if as extreme. I mean, I think in some way or another I would have. But another element of Florida was that, I mentioned before that I was harassed from a young age by the police. And then I forced to go to church, with that weird church crowd. And that really started a rebellion in me, like against the religion, against the oppression of the police. Um, and I think that toughened me up to the point where, when I did my artwork, I knew I enjoyed doing my artwork and it was helping me in a way, almost being like, well, like a psychiatrist might tell you, like if you're angry, draw something, angry and like get it out of your system.
Hmm.
I feel like that's kind of what I was doing because of the oppression and the religion stuff, and everyone thinking they know what's good for me. Um, and so all the police harassment, it just kind of toughened me up for this big fight.
Yeah.
Because really, with any kind of police harassment I had over the years, getting pulled over and stuff, stress wise, that was really nothing compared to like being considered a Gainesville student killer and like all the stuff they were doing.
Yeah. Most people don't have to deal with that ever.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
I was
a,
23 years old.
yeah.
It was a lot to go through. But I feel like all that harassment helped me to the point where I thought, well, there's no way I'm going to give in, because
Yeah.
now it's personal. They're messing with my art, the one thing that I feel like I need to get through this community I'm living in. I mean, it's their fault, really. I feel like
Yeah.
they made me get to that point where I was drawing what I was drawing, just seeing like the hypocrites and the church people who turn a blind eye to abuse. Also, the TV news was a big influence then for me. I was kind of addicted to watching the TV news, and I would hear the reports of priests molesting children, all kinds of murderers. I mean, there were true stories that were more strange than any boiled angel stories that I ever came up with, real
Yeah.
life stuff. Um, so yeah, I mean, that just determined me to really fight them to the end. But still, I hated Florida. And there were things I liked about Florida. I used to like to go on road trips. There's like old broken down tourist traps, alligator farms,
Oh
town.
yeah. What was that one? There was one that had like a big green like alligator mouth that you walked into.
And gator
Uh,
jungle, I believe.
Something like that. Yeah, I remember going to that as a kid.
Or
And
maybe
even as a
that's
kid,
Gatorland.
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 That's it. Yeah, yeah. Even as a kid, I remember just going in there and being like, "This just doesn't seem awesome." Like
Yeah.
the idea of going to see alligators, you're like, "Yeah," and then you go and you're like, "I don't
Yeah.
love this." Yeah, just something's wrong here. And like as a
It's
kid, you're just like, "I don't know what it is, but
it's
something's not
weird.
right." Yeah.
Gator Jungle was one, even more like rickety than Gatorland. There was one, these weird freak gators, like they all had short snouts and big heads,
Oh, weird.
like all of them in this one pen, and it just had a sign that said, "We don't know what happened to these ones."
Oh my god.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Um,
That's yeah. It's
yeah, there was a lot of these homemade zoos.
yeah.
There was a cypress knee museum out in Palmdale, Florida, middle of the swamp. This guy in the 30s was just collecting cypress knees. It's like this growing out of the swamp becomes like a point
Oh, okay.
from
Oh,
under the
okay. I think
ground.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Call them cypress knees. And in the 30s, he would collect them. He'd cut them off because they look like things. Sometimes they'd grow rather than a point. They would grow like one was Frog Boy because it looked like a Frog Boy face.
Oh, like
And he had them
the
all in his glass
yeah.
cases, which was outside in the middle of the swamp. Because his kids were like running the museum after he passed away. And they had all them the cypress knees labeled. I had this one perfect cone labeled KKK. I always remember that one. Um, yeah, it
Florida
was
is like a
strange.
different world. I mean, I was
Well, definitely.
yeah, the last time I was down there, I was doing marketing for a stainless steel company and we were down there at a trade show. And so like after the trade show, you're down pretty much all week and so you have this just time to kill and you're out having a beer and having something to eat and just kind of like kicking back or whatever. And you're like, this place fucking stinks. Like this whole room smells like cigarettes. And then you just see some guy at the end of the bar like ripping butts. And I'm like, oh, I guess you can smoke in here. And then like, and
Right.
and then someone else at the bar had like a one of those buckets of beers, like you buy the bucket full of ice and Bud Lights or whatever.
Right.
And the woman goes over and like puts them in a bag and ties them up and hands them to the guy. And I call her, I'm like, did you just give that guy a doggy bag of beer? And she's like, well, they're not open. And I'm like, I don't even know how to address this. This is fucking crazy,
Right.
you know? And I'm like,
Right.
I don't know if it's unchained here or we're repressed up here, but it's just like, I'm like, it's just so weird. And all those little
It's
changes.
it is weird. Yeah.
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 But I didn't
Really.
love it. I haven't been back, you know? So,
Yeah. It is strange. I mean, you know, strange kind of place.
yeah. Yeah. Go visit, don't live, And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly.
But Mike, I want to say thank you so much. Where can people go to see your artwork or find out like what's new with you? Is there a
Um,
website or socials or that kind of thing?
Well, we were talking about the box set. So yeah,
Yep.
the Boiled Angel box set did come out,
Okay.
and you get all 8 issues in a box. Um, and I have a website. My friend has a website he started for me many years ago. So it seems like it's getting pretty good. Now we have like all the instant things where you can buy stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Um, it's called Mike Diana Comics, comics spelled
Of
COMIX.com.
course, because it's an underground comic. That's how you spell underground comics.
Yeah.
Is there on the order form? Do you have to check that you're not a cop?
I mean, it probably should be, but
Yeah,
you
that'd be
think
hysterical.
you have to like check that you're 18 to get onto the site, maybe.
Yeah,
But yeah, luckily I haven't had any problems. I mean, that's another thing that seems to be interesting is that I've never had any problems with boiled angels in any other state, you know,
yeah,
like any other place. I'm sure there's places out there that I would have a problem. Um, but you know, other than that town, I think I just had the bad luck to be living in Largo, Florida, which is like the one place that I could have gotten that kind of
yeah.
trouble.
Wrong place, wrong time, kind of thing.
And every now and then someone would write me a letter or an email and say, "Man, I tried to make a zine or I tried to get in trouble on purpose. I made the worst stuff and I wanted the free publicity." And I say, "Oh, well, move to Largo, Florida." As
Yeah,
far as I know, no one's wanted to go that far,
right.
to do it. Um, yeah, because
Awesome.
really in Largo, Florida, that case set a precedent, they say to do future prosecution.
Yeah, I mean that's the scariest part is
Yeah.
that like now they can cite your case as a reason to convict someone else, and that's
Yeah.
it's unreal. It's we shouldn't be dealing with this shit in this day and age. It's
Yeah.
well, on behalf of creative people, thank you for fighting the fight.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
Another thing I was going to mention
oh
is
sure.
I mentioned before about the Blood Brothers video and the Bake Baby Jesus video that I
Hmm.
did, which was homemade films I did back in 89 and 90 with my brother and sister, and a lot of fake blood and stuff. And they ordered those, the prosecutor's office, the state attorney's office had ordered those back when they ordered a Boiled Angel. I always wondered, like, what kind of room they viewed them in, like to decide whether they were going to charge me with obscenity for the videos also, which they viewed them and decided they weren't obscene according to the law of obscenity.
Yeah.
Uh, but those just came out on Blu-ray and they look really, really nice,
Oh,
because
nice.
before I had put them on video and I had cut it on video and then made copies of video. So copies I sent out back then were already losing generations.
Yeah.
And when we did the Blu-ray, we went back to like the original VHS elements and recut everything. So it looks like it's never looked before. I had them available on DVD for many years, but now it's on the Blu-ray. So if people want to look for that, it's called the Blood Brothers Mike Diana Film Collection. And he even have a short film called The Shed from 1987 that was never cut together. So we cut that together. That's like a 40-minute film, never been seen before. So yeah, there's definitely stuff out there, and people can
Cool.
get the Boiled Angel box set and see for themselves, make a decision if they think it's obscene or not.
Yeah. And if you're really a serial killer.
But these days, I mean, it's pretty crazy,
Yeah.
Um, I used to do this thing. There were this zines called death zines, was like a general term for a kind of zine people would do, which had like black and white copies of photos from like books about crime,
Yeah.
like crime scene photos and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and so, I mean, I would think, wow, it's pretty extreme, but these days, looking at the internet, you got full color, you got the video.
Oh, I remember when
It's
like the
crazy.
internet was first coming around, there was I want to say it was like awful.com or something like that.
I remember.
And it was just crime scene photos and crime scene photos, and you're just
Yeah.
like yeah, it's I don't know. Everything's so weird. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
I definitely appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. This was
Yeah.
awesome.
Thanks,
Um
Scott. It was good to be here.
yeah, yeah. And please, anytime you have something new coming out, please let us know. We'll have you back on. We'll talk some more. And listeners can catch us
Definitely.
again next week. We'll talk to you guys later.
All right. Have a good one. Thanks, everyone.
And thanks for checking out the show today, listeners. If you enjoyed the content today, you can go over to patreon.com/Inebri-art to support the show. You can join over there for just a few dollars a month and help us provide this fun content that you just checked out. You can also email us at Inebri-art.com with your questions, complaints, and concerns, or you can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art or at Inebri-art6 on Instagram. And also don't forget to check out our other shows, Bar Talk Podcast, Old Colony Cast, Inebri-art, and all the other shows on the Inebri-art Network, which you can find at Inebri-art.com. Thanks again for listening.